I am going to tell you a wonderful story now. It is called God with No Hands. At first, there was chaos, and darkness was on the face of the deep. God said, "Let there be light," and there was a light. There appeared something like a vast fiery cloud that included all the stars which are in the sky. The whole universe was in the cloud, and among the tiniest of the stars was our own world. As this cloud of light and heat moved through the empty space, little drops fell from it, like if you swing the water out of a glass. Some of it holds together as it falls, and the rest break up into separate drops. The countless host of stars are like these drops, only instead of falling, they are moving around in space in such a way that they can never meet. They are millions of miles from each other. Do you know how fast light travels? 100 miles? 200 miles? 1,000 miles? No, it travels 186,000 miles per second. It means in 1 second, it can travel 7 times around the whole world. Do you know how big the world is? 25,000 miles. If we were to drive at 100 miles an hour continuously all day and all night long without stopping, it would take us more than 10 days to cover that distance. There are so many stars. Look at this map. Scientists have calculated that if each of the stars were a grain of sand, all the stars together would cover up all the states from Virginia all the way through New York up to the height of 200 meters. One of these stars is our sun. The sun doesn't look so big. This is because it is so far away. If we were to travel to the sun at 100 miles per hour, it would take us a little more than 106 years to reach the sun. The sun is 1 million times bigger than the earth. The sun is so big that one of its flame could contain 22 earths. God said, "As you become cold, you shall come closer and become smaller." So as they cooled, they moved more and more slowly, clinging closer and closer to each other, occupying less and less space. The particles assumed different states, which men called the solid, the liquid, and gas state. Everything we know is either a gas or a liquid or a solid. The three states depends on how hot or how cold it is. God gave some other instructions. Each of the tiny particles was given a special love for certain particles and a special dislike for certain others. Some were attracted to each other and some were not. In this way, the particles combined and formed themselves into different groups. In the solid state, God has made the particles cling so closely together that they are almost impossible to separate. They form a body that will not change its shape unless one applies force. If a piece is broken off, the particles still cling together. When it came to liquids, God said, "You shall hold together, but not very closely, so that you will have no shape of your own and will roll over each other." To the gases, God said, "Your particles shall not cling together at all." They can move freely in all directions. But as the particles were all so different individuals, they did not become solid or liquid or gas all at the same time. At a certain temperature, some remained solid, others liquid, and still others became gas. While obeying the laws, the blazing mass went on spinning and spinning around itself and around the sun in the tremendous cold of space. As time went on, the outer ring of Earth became cold and shrank. The cold particles hurried to the Earth, but as soon as they approached the hotter part, they became hot and went up again. Little like angels, they carried a bucket of hot burning coal into the space and returned with some ice. If you become hot, you expand. As you expand, you become lighter and move upwards. If you become cold, you shrink and fall as a grain of sand sinks to the bottom of a pond. For hundreds, thousands, millions of years, this dance went on. Finally, the particles settled down like tired dancers. They became first liquid, then solid, and as they became solid or liquid, some of them joined others to which they were attracted, forming new substances. The heavier ones went nearer to the heart of the earth, and the lighter ones floated above them like oil floating on water. A thin scum was formed like the skin that forms on milk when it is boiled and left to cool. It seemed as though the earth had taken some shape. The elements inside this skin were still very hot. They felt trapped. They wanted to get out. They had to follow the law of God. If you are hot, you expand. There was no place to expand, so they burst out. They broke the skin, and it was like a terrible fight. The water that formed on the surface immediately turned into a vapor and went up, as the hot stuff came out from inside the earth. There were also ashes like a veil of a cloud was drawn to cover the earth, so that nobody could see what was going on. The sun was ashamed of them. Eventually, the fighting stopped. As everybody cooled down, more and more gases became liquid. More and more liquids became solids. The earth itself shrank and became wrinkled like an old apple that has been left in the cupboard. The wrinkles are the mountains, and the hollow are the oceans. As soon as the rocks had cooled down, water was able to return to the earth. It rained and rained and rained. The water, being liquid, filled every hollow that it found in its path. Thus, the oceans were formed. Above them was air, the air that we breathe. The cloud had disappeared. The veil was withdrawn, and the sun could smile upon its little beautiful daughter, the earth. Today, as it was yesterday and millions of years ago, God's laws are obeyed in the same way.